Hello my friends, and welcome once again to the Mask Fan Attic. Yes, with me, the annoying orange of horror, Dr. Lady. And up here in the attic, as you know, every week we try to look at some cool, old, interesting Halloween masks from days gone by. And look what I just happened to spot this year. This is a classic, folks. This monster you're about to see, definitely a classic of the mask world. And I say that because he was one of the most influential character designs, highly original and unique when first introduced into the world. I refer, of course, to our old friend Fang Face. Now, Fang Face from Be Something Studios first came out in the mid-70s. I'm not sure exactly what year. I'm going to guess 1975, maybe within a year or two of there, but mid-70s, Fang Face. And as soon as this thing came out, this likeness ended up on posters and billboards and flyers and tickets for various haunted house attractions all over the country. And, well, in terms of mask history, most of the masks that get frequently imitated are popular characters. Like everybody has done their version of Frankenstein and Dracula, and a werewolf and a zombie and a skull. But Fang Face is one of the few non-movie characters to have a lasting impact in terms of mask design, which is a nice way of saying this guy was ripped off, knocked off, imitated, and copied by a lot of mask companies for a lot of years. And you started seeing these characteristics of this face in other sculptures by other companies. Now, the original Fang Face, that's this one, actually did land a role in a movie. He's proud of that. He won't be when I remind him that the movie was Rocktober Blood, which is a movie that came out in 1984. That's right, Rocktober Blood. And so if you collect movie masks or slasher masks, that is to say masks that were worn by slasher characters in the movies, you needed a Fang Face. But you need an old style Fang Face from Be Something Studios, okay? Now in the movie, just a quick encapsulation of the movie here. It's about a rock band called Rocktober Blood. Really? You know, like any pun or play on words, somebody had to think of it. But Rocktober Blood is a band where the lead man, the front man for the band, wears the Fang Face mask on stage during their performances. And one night he kills all of his, or not all, but a bunch of his friends and colleagues, and his surviving girlfriend takes over the band, and then it's a couple of years later, and somebody in the Fang Face mask starts killing people again. So basically a slasher movie. It's very, very 80s, has some very typical 80s rock sequences in it, with very typical 80s synth pop sound and kind of a light metal-like flavor to it. And well, I wouldn't want to spoil the end of a good story, but this story ends with the revelation that the guy who committed the murders at the beginning was executed by means of electric chair. He was tried, found guilty, executed, and then somebody else is doing the killing. So is it him come back to life from the grave, or is it someone else? Well, it turns out it's his twin brother, which that was kind of a popular cliche in the 80s, everybody having an evil twin. And I guess if you really think about it, that revelation in this story means that the guy who was arrested and then tried and sentenced and ultimately electrocuted for the crimes at the beginning of the movie never remembered during any of that time that he had a crazy identical twin. It never came up in the trial. Nobody knew. The twin thing just comes out of left field. But anyway, suddenly I'm critiquing cheap old terrible movies. But anyway, Fang Face on the box cover. If you well, some people call this the Rocktober Blood mask, and that's understandable because if you had rented the Vestron Video VHS tape at your local video rental store back during the 1980s or thereabouts, you would have seen this on the cover, and then if you went to a costume shop later and saw this mask, you would assume this was the Rocktober Blood mask. So that's why some people call it the Rocktober Blood mask, but really it's just called Fang Face. Also not to be confused with a cartoon that was on Saturday mornings in the late 70s called Fang Face. That Fang Face was, it was kind of a Scooby-Doo wannabe show with characters patterned after the Bowery Boys, I kid you not. And the Fang Face on that show didn't look anything like this guy. He was a werewolf with one great big fang in the front. But anyway, one of the cool things about old Fang Face, and one of the reasons he became so immensely popular in Halloween haunted attractions and Halloween parties and everything, was that you can't tell what he is. He's just a monster. He's some sort of animal-looking guy, but he could be alien, he could be demonic, he could be something more like a werewolf. You can't tell. He's just a good all-purpose monster. You gotta love that. Now, in later years, Fang Face was reissued in the late '00s in this version, which you see before you now. This is the later model Fang Face. It's a little larger, and it could be argued that the sculpting is a little more refined, a little more sophisticated on this later one. Slightly more, he's slightly more angular looking. I think he looks a little more alien, whereas this one has, because of its rounded contours, has more of a dog, bear, ape effect going on. And by the way, folks, watch out if you're in the woods of Ohio, because dog, bear, ape is still on the prowl, even though we have yet to find any conclusive evidence of his existence. We do believe dog, bear, ape is still out there, but we'll edit that out. Who am I kidding? No, we won't. The original Fang Face, a little more animal looking, and I like it a little better, even though this one is wonderful too. They're both fantastically great masks. They're both classics. They both have very nice quality plush black hoods with Velcro fasteners under the chin. And well, another version was even offered a few years ago there that was sold in the Halloween stores, the seasonal chain stores, and that version looked more like this one, but it was more yellow and the hood wasn't as deluxe. It was more like just a piece of black, just plain black fabric rather than this plushy stuff, and it was simpler, just sort of draped onto the head. And again, the flesh tone was yellower than either of these. Very cool too, though. That's a good one too. And I should also mention that back in the old days, when the brown version was out that you see here, there was also an identical version painted green. So this same sculpture was available in either brown or green, and the brown one was called the male Fang Face, and the green one was called the female. And it was an early attempt by Be Something to come up with basically couples masks. So the guy could wear the brown one and the girl could wear the green one, and there you have it. Now if you want to find one of these for your collection, but if you're a true Rocktober Blood connoisseur, you're going to have to find the old one, because this is the one used in the movie. Now what are the differences? One is the chin. If you look at the bottom of his chin, the old one, the chin is rounded, and in the later sculpture it actually kind of dips up in the center. He actually has something of a concave chin on the new one, and the old one didn't. And another obvious difference is the bottoms of the nostrils, because on the old one the nostrils just sort of slide up underneath his nose and you can't really see the bottoms of the nostrils. It's just dark and subtle there. Whereas this one has a very obvious sort of a bony ridge around the nose and the bottom there, differentiating the nostrils clearly from his muzzle. And again, he's slightly bigger, but I like the old one a little better, maybe just because that's what I grew up with, but they're both great, and the yellow one and the green one are great too. So get yourself a Fang Face, courtesy of Be Something Studios, which is now called Zagoni, but back in the 80s, they were Be Something Studios, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Nowadays, they're Zagoni, Z-A-G-O-N-E. Look for it and tell them Dr. Lady sent you. Thank you.